What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with a preview for the Memorial. All my loves are leaving Texas, heading back to their power sources to either recharge or they're heading to Ohio to play Muirfield Village this weekend. Excellent course history. It's a stellar field. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into this because we have a lot to talk about. If you're new to the video series, this is the cheat sheet. This, amongst all the other tools that you're going to see, are available on dfsondemand.com. All right, keep in mind there's 120 players in the field this week and still top 70 and ties getting through. So more players are going to be making the cut than a normal week. Keep that in mind. I like to take a little more risks, a few more flyers, since a larger percentage of the field is going to be making the cut. So keep that in mind as we go through this. But we really have to talk about what we're going to do at the top here. We have 5 guys over 10,000. Jordan Spieth does not crack that list, and it's just absolutely star-studded here at the top. There's, what's this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys with 14-1 or better odds to win. I don't think I need to waste all of our time going through why each one of these is a really good play. They're all a good play for their own reason. We're going to have to take some stands here and make some decisions. So where do we do that? The 2 guys, and this is not a knock against any of these top 3, but the 2 guys I'm most interested in are probably going to be Justin Rose and Justin Thomas, the 2 Justins. So Rose, we talked about last week a lot, where I kind of showed you his long-term form, and as far as DraftKings scoring, he has been the best or the second best golfer in terms of DraftKings scoring for a long, long time. He's coming off a win. He's had great success here at Muirfield Village before. He had a second place in 2015, which is the last time he's played it. You know, clicking on all cylinders. I don't need to discuss that. Unfortunately, I don't know. I mean, do you get a lot of times guys will take someone who won last week because they're playing hot, or they'll avoid the guy who played last week because he just won. He's dealing with all the additional obligations, interviews, etc. Justin Rose is a professional. He's won, 9 times on tour. He's dealt with this before. I don't think that impacts him as much as a guy like Aaron Wise after his first win. But Justin Thomas is probably the guy I'm going to be most overweight on, and there's a few reasons. We'll talk about them in general here. But just looking at the cheat sheet, in his last, 5 starts, he has no worse than a 17th finish. You can see what he's done here. He's decimated the PGA Tour. Not to mention that he finished 4th last year at Muirfield Village. But what I want to get into is some more. We're going to talk about his tour stats later. But I have been working on a new little stat. Essentially, where this came from is the stats that we get from the PGA Tour or from anywhere are pretty skewed, right? Not every golfer plays every tournament. So we have to really look at each tournament as its own little game, essentially, right? So even if you look at driving statistics, if you only play courses where the fairways are very easy to hit, your driving stats are going to increase, right? If you only play difficult tournaments, your scoring average is going to be higher than maybe someone who only plays easy courses. So that's the basis of it. What I think we need to do as a community is look a lot more into per event or per round stats and compare them against themselves. So what I've started to do, and I'll tell you where this is going here. This isn't live yet, but I'll have something live soon. This is what I'm doing is DraftKings points gained. Okay, so against the field in that tournament, how many DraftKings points is a player gaining? And the reason I'm doing this is for what I just described, right? Like if you only play in weak fields or on weak courses, you will probably score more DraftKings points. Since DraftKings points does include finishing position, this does also incorporate the field strength in a way, right? So I kind of like this, and then if this works out well, I'll do this gained stat for all the different stats that I have available. So just to show you what DraftKings points gained is, essentially I have all the game logs, right? And this is a very simple calculation if you have the data. You can see what the average DraftKings score was for a given week. So if we look back at last week's Fort Worth Invitational, the average performance was 51 DraftKings points. And then you just take what that player did and add or subtract it, right? So Aaron Wise only scoring 25 DraftKings points was 26 DraftKings points less than the field, essentially, or less than the average. So are you gaining points on the field? So if you look on the left here, what I have is everyone in the field, and this is sorted by salary, but you can see this is their average DraftKings points gained. So you can see Justin Thomas is gaining 33 DraftKings points per start since the start of the year, since January 1st. Jordan Spieth, not so much, 18 points. Ricky Fowler, 12.5. Hideki Matsuyama, 5.5. Obviously, this isn't a complete given, but I'm trying to show you, and if we pull up Justin Thomas here and just look at his stats, you can see this is 9 starts. He has gained at least 22 DraftKings points on the field in the last 8. Hasn't lost points to the field since the Tournament of Champions, which is kind of a unique event because he scored 78 DraftKings points and there's no cut and everyone went nuts. So not too big of a deal. If we continue to go back, I mean, you can just look at this. His last 15 starts, he's basically always 22 points better than the field. Very rare occasions is he losing points, and a lot of times he's going absolutely nuts against the field. So just to kind of show you a little bit of a comparison here, if I choose, let's see, if I do Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, I mean, you can see this is a running total of their DraftKings gain stat, and you can see just how much JT is outperforming Jordan Spieth in the last 5 or 6 months or so. You know, it's a nice little stat that I like because it tries to put everybody on a level playing field. I will have something on the site as soon as possible. I'm still kind of working through all the kinks on that. But anyway, that's my long-winded way of saying I think Justin Thomas is my top play this week. I'll show you some of his tour stats later. Spieth, we've talked about plenty. I'm going to have him. I want to be on board for the win when he finally gets it. You know, he's put 1 round together, 2 rounds together, hasn't been able to put 4 rounds together this year. Now he drops below $10,000, still only 18-1 to win this event. So I think you have to keep buying Spieth, who's had a pretty good run of success here at the Memorial as well. Okay, now what do we've got here in the $9,000 range, which is really where this gets stacked, right? So Stenson, who hasn't played since the Players' Championship, hasn't played much this year. When we get to the tour stats, he's going to pop off as well. He's a top guy that I like. Matsuyama is going to pop off on the tour stats as well. He's a past winner here, also with a fifth place in 2015. There are a few other guys here. Bubba Watson, who if you've watched this series for a long time, you know I'm not a particularly big Bubba Watson fan, but it's going to be kind of hard to avoid him this week. He's having a great year. 57th at the Players, but that course can pop up and bite anybody. And he has great success here. So he's played Muirfield Village 9 times, 6th place last year, 3rd place in 2014. And this is the big thing for me, right? It's these Vegas odds. So Vegas has him at 28-1 to win this event, which is much better than anyone else in this price range. In fact, if we're going off 28-1, he should probably be like 91 or 9,200, and he's only 8,700, and he's much better odds to win this than the rest of his peers in that price range. So that is kind of the deciding factor on, okay, Vegas is all in, I might have to do the same. And then you're going to get the complete chalk here at 8,500, which is Matt Kuchar, has annihilated this course, averaging 88.8 DraftKings points in his 9 starts since 2018. Back-to-back 4th place finishes. This course seems to set up for him, which, by the way, this course doesn't seem to dictate one fashion or another. You've had bombers win here. You've had shorter players win here. The only thing that seems to really correlate strongly is your approach shots. A Jack Nicklaus course is going to have a ton of trouble around the greens, so you're going to have to hit your greens. So when we get to the tour stats, you'll see strokes gained approach is going to be a very important one for us this week. All right, and even as we get closer down to 8,000, there's plenty of good options here. Charles Schwartzel, who withdrew from the Fort Worth Invitational, but I'm not concerned about that. Looked like it was just withdrawing for rest, not any injury. Right, so he has 2 straight top 10s. If you look at his history here 8 starts, averaging 68 DraftKings points, including an 11th in 2016 and an 8th in 2014. Tony Finau actually boasts the same record, an 11th and an 8th, but just 1 year off. And Finau's a guy who's, always feels underpriced here. I feel like he can win on any golf course. And then as you continue to roll down, let's see if we can find a couple of more. I mean, there's plenty of guys with great history. They refuse to raise the price on Kevin Na. They refuse. Kevin Na shoots the course record at Colonial last week, a 61, had a 62 on Thursday, finishes 4th, which is now a 6th and a 4th in back-to-back starts. Has a second place finish here, and the price is $7,600. Again, another guy that Vegas is much higher on than DraftKings is, so we're back on the Kevin Na bandwagon. Who else might be interesting here? Patrick Cantlay. Okay, I forget what stat I saw on Cantlay. It might have been a strokes or a DraftKings points gain stat, but misses the cut at the Fort Worth Invitational, burns a lot of players. 55 to 1 to win. Like, his price is wrong. Vegas is all over Patrick Cantlay at 55 to 1. He made the cut last year in his only start, 35th place. This guy's got unbelievable skill set. We were off of him last week, but this is probably too good to pass up. We're gonna have to get on Cantlay. And then let's see. If we're talking strokes gained approach, Keegan Bradley's gonna pop up, right? And kind of bears it out. 2 8th place finishes in a row in 2016 and 2015, coming in off of 7th place at the Players. Who else? Lahiri's had a good pop here, but probably a little too inconsistent for my liking. Streelman, who started off great at the Fort Worth Invitational, absolutely punted it away. I still kind of like him, right? Like, for the same reasons we liked him last week. He's a great second shot player. He's had, a good run coming in with a 7th and an 8th, a month ago. And again, another course that really seems to suit his game. I guess we're going to have to get back on him. And then real quick, before we just jump away from this, if we sort by average DraftKings points, which I always like to do, any other values that pop up? Lingmerth is here basically because of his win in 2015. For me, he has not played nearly well enough to roster him. Robert Streb is in here. So Streb has made 3 of his last 4 cuts. Again, I don't know how much upside is there, but in 3 starts here, he's got no worse than a 20th. So if you're really digging for value, these are probably some guys that you can take a peek at. All right, let's turn over to those tour stats that we talked about. And if you've never watched this before, I take all of the PGA stats for the last 8 years, and I take all of the DraftKings performances for the last 8 years, and I put them into a regression model, and we find what stats correlate. It was pretty straightforward this week. Strokes gained total, of course, that's pretty much going to always correlate with success. That SFDA stat, which is a per round stat, which I like. It compares you against the field. Par fours. There's very difficult par fours here at Muirfield Village. A lot of them are very lengthy. So par 4 scoring was a big one, and then bogey avoidance as well. But there was one that did pop, and as I mentioned before, it's a second shot course. It's strokes gained approach. So while I'm here and while I'm sorted by salary, I want you to take a look at this. So green or blue is better. If you just look at the top guys, you're looking for elite stats across the board. So Rory is, by far the worst as far as the elite guys goes in the 5 or 6 categories that we're looking at. However, he's the type of player who can flip it on in a moment's notice. Played well on the Euro Tour last week, so take this for what it's worth. But if you look here, Justin Rose, elite in essentially every single category. Justin Thomas, elite in essentially every single category. Henrik Stenson has not played as many rounds as those guys, but again, basically elite in every single category. So you can see where these top guys rank. And if we go one by one here, we'll be able to identify some of the value. Strokes gained total, almost always going to be your best players for obvious reasons, right? Chesson Hadley's the cheapest guy that pops off. We always see Luke List, and we tend to write him off a lot. Bryson DeChambeau having an unbelievable year. You don't see Rory down here he's the worst of these 10K guys. But again, if you think he can flip the switch, he can be the best player in the world. Now, here's your stat that I think is the most important this week. It's your strokes gained approach. You get all the great ball strikers, right? Stenson, Bradley, Hadley, who Hadley actually finished pretty well. I had him in my core last week. Yeah, okay. So charged on Saturday and Sunday with a 65 and a 67, finished in 20th. And he seems to fit this course somewhat well, at least for the second shot aspect. So we'll probably have quite a bit of him. And then here's where you get JT, the best of the 10K guys, and it's not particularly close, right? So if you're going straight right off strokes gained approach, Justin at 10.3, then you go down here to Rose at 10.6, then DJ all the way down here, Rory, etc., right? Spieth is on here as well at 9,800. Oh, Stuart Sink real quick. Sink is always a good ball striker. Also, I spelled Memorial wrong. Don't tweet me about that. I already know. Here is the last 8 years for Stuart Sink at the Memorial. 2 top 10s, but essentially, I mean, he's had great success, right? He hasn't missed a cut in 8 years, but his upside is kind of limited, which is what I'm a little worried about with Sink, right? I play him probably more than most, especially on second shot courses, places that he's played a lot. If you're a cash game guy, you could probably go grab Sink, or maybe I could throw him in my core, but I think we really have to temper expectations from him. I just don't know if he has that, top 25 upside. Like, I don't know what his upside is here. And if we just kind of look back at his recent form, I mean, hasn't broken it was January 1st when he last got in the top 20. Then it was November 25th. So I'm just worried about his upside. But if you're looking for kind of someone who appears to be safe and would fit the course, Sink is on there. SFDA, this is probably going to be your better guys too, but it is a per field, per round stat. So we do get like someone like Tony Finau, who plays a lot of good events with tough fields. So don't dismiss Tony Finau. Par 4s. This is par 4 scoring. Look at all these studs at the top. Yeah, no kidding. I actually do like Matsuyama as well. I mentioned him earlier, but just to kind of hammer it home, he does fit on here enough, and he's a past champion. But you see, this is kind of logical here. Here's where Streelman popped off and kind of got me last week, right? Birdie or better, always going to be important for DraftKings scoring. Pat Perez, his birdie or better continues to stay up here, but he's been so brutal recently. It's hard to trust it. Keith Mitchell back in the field this week. I'm a little bit concerned about this number right here. Don't get me wrong, big Keith Mitchell fan. He's played well. I've rostered him. I've seen a lot of success with him, but I'm not sure this is the week for him. I'll just pull back a little bit and see what I can get, but I'm not expecting as much as I have in other weeks where I've stuck him in my core. And then bogey avoidance. Again, Streelman does not make a lot of bogeys, which was kind of interesting to see him fall off on. He was like 6 over on Sunday. Yeah, shot a 70. He went 72, 76 on Sunday or Saturday and Sunday. That's brutal. Usually doesn't do that. So I might be willing to buy back in on Streelman. McGirt, past champion here, right? Yeah. And then here you see Na again and Kuchar. So those are the guys that are really gonna play for me. And then if we go back and we do the Vegas odds one more time, I kind of pointed them out as we were going through, but let's see if we can find any more plays that are really egregious here. Yeah, Bubba, obviously underpriced. Emiliano Grillo, another guy. Adam Scott, maybe just a little bit. Aaron Wise, according to Vegas, right, $7,800, $400 cheaper than Schwartzel. Patrick Cantlay, same thing. Kevin Na, same thing. So kind of pointed out a few of these as we were going through. And those are the big ones before we get down into the really long shots. So what are we going to do this week? It's an absolute stacked field at the top. I'm not ready to give up on Jordan Spieth yet. Are you guys ready? Let me know what you're going to do with Spieth. Should we just pass him up because the field's pretty big or pretty deep? Let me know what you're going to do with him. He's $9,800. That's probably the best price we'll ever get on Jordan Spieth. So let me know. Tweet me. It's at DFS On Demand or leave a comment below. Talk to you guys soon. Good luck.